I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Abington School Committee here on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Middle High School Library. If you could please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. So before we get started on the hearing of visitors, there's just something that I would like to address, and then the superintendent's going to also mention on it. You may or may not know about this, depending on what school your children are in, regarding some of the safety emails that have been coming out, incidents that have happened. They're school-specifically sent, so if you have a child that, like Beaverbrook, you may not even know that these are coming out in Beaverbrook only, but we as a committee, we're hearing more and more that these are happening more and more often in the schools, particularly Woodsdale and the middle school. Particularly Woodsdale and the middle school is where these issues are happening more and more. I know there's questions online about repercussions and things like that. The superintendent's going to hit on that when I'm done. But what I'm here to say on behalf of the committee is that it can't be taken lightly. Any kids that may be listening to this or may see this in some way, shape, or form, it's not a joke. We've heard from administration at the middle school that the way they talk to each other is just, I'm going to shoot you. You can't say that in a school. So any kids that are listening directly, I hope you hear this. It's not something that can be said in a school or anywhere, but in a school, it's going to trigger a response that has to happen. Parents, we ask that you talk to your kids about it. Let them know that these are things that cannot be said. They may think it's a joke, right? I'm not saying that an 8-year-old doesn't in their mind think it's a joke, but it's not something that can be taken as a joke on behalf of the school department. And like I said, I'm gonna let the superintendent speak to a lot of those matters afterwards. So we as a committee have been seeing a rise in them. We want to be able to address it as best we could and try to speak to a way to maybe curb away from it. Also at the same time, I guess if we're hitting on safety, it's starting to get nicer out. More and more kids, particularly at this building, are gonna be riding their bikes to school. We ask that they be careful as they're doing so. We ask that parents driving be careful. I want to thank Mr. Bourne and Mr. McCurtain for a message they sent out about student parking. It seems to have gotten a little bit better, at least from my perspective, about asking them not when to back into spaces anymore. I think it's helped out, at least from my perspective, when I'm showing up here. I can't speak for everybody. The other thing I think we'd be remiss if we didn't hit on safety as well is the trains. Clearly, Abington has, I don't know if an issue is the right word, but things happen in Abington along the train tracks. Kids, parents, do your best to be safe out there. The train tracks are not a place to play. I can tell you, if you think you know the train schedule, it changed this week. It's running later than it had been, and I don't know if the frequency has, but I know it's running later just from my own experience. So those are some of the things the committee wanted to address regarding safety as best we could. Dr. Michelle, if you could just hit on some of the other things.
Thank you. So we absolutely have seen over the last few weeks an increase of reported threats, both at the Woodsdale and the middle school. And each time a threat is reported, we have an obligation to trigger a number of things. The first one is to determine the validity of the threat. If students and staff are safe. If they are, then we'll go into an investigatory mode. If they're not, then we initiate our safety protocols. We work very closely with the Abington Police Department to ensure the safety of our students within the school and in their homes. So if there's a threat to commit a crime or a threat to use a weapon, then we're contacting the Abington Police Department and they determine what their response will be. Our administration investigates all threats, tries to determine the circumstances that occurred that led to the threat, and then there's consequences. And there's a significant range of consequences. It depends on the situation. It could range from, I'm not going to tell you that every time a student makes a threat, they're automatically suspended, but I can tell you that students are suspended, they do have detention, and everything in between. Counseling, meetings with parents. Parents are always contacted, both parents of whoever has made the threat as well as parents of those that the threat was made against. And if appropriate, we then notify the community that something has happened. And part of that reason for notifying is really so that you can have conversations with your children at home around what is appropriate behavior at school, what you need to report, and also to make sure that you know that we know. So we don't want your child coming home and saying that something happened at school and be wondering whether we knew about it. So I know it's unsettling to get the emails. I understand that, but I also feel that it's important that families know when we know. I also want to reiterate our thanks and partnership with the Abington Police Department. Their responses are also grade appropriate, grade level appropriate, interactions with families, and there are times that their involvement, they don't become involved, and there's others that they do. So I'd like to thank our school resource officers, our chief, our deputy. They've really been great partners with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. I guess with that, I'm going to now open up to hearing of visitors. If anybody would like to address the committee, just ask that you give your name and address for our records and come to the podium. Okay, thank you. First order of business is a reading and approval of the minutes from the February 25th meeting. After the committee has a chance to review them, I'll be just looking for a motion to approve or amend and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our first order of business, Chris, I'm just taking them, is report of the assistant superintendent. We're going to have Miss Meg Doherty, math department head, present.
I know. Hello and welcome. Nice to see everybody again. I am here to tell you a little bit about an update on our progress and goals for our math and computer science department. So our goals for this past year were basically on curriculum and writing, more building thinking classroom activities, trying to figure out how to grade thinking. If we're doing building thinking classrooms, how do you grade thinking? Which is kind of a very, very interesting question, and our AP scores. Our curriculum writing is where we've spent most of our focus. As you know, one of the things we talked about is not investing in a new series and to really kind of look at our standards and try to do it ourselves. And we currently have the team that we can do that with. The high school department is all in on this, and they have just kind of just owned it. They love the ability to go ahead and say, this is what I'm teaching, and this is why. And they get that ownership from it versus going and looking at a series and pulling from here and pulling from here. That being said, the question is, how did we do it? How did we start it? So I did want to share a little bit of that with you. So over the summer, the entire math department met from the high school, and we literally took out the blue books, which are the math curriculum frameworks from 2017, took a look at them, and we all know them, but we've been working on the pilots, we've been working on other things, so it was nice to kind of go back and look at it, what I'll call post-COVID. Where should we be? We spent so much time working on the power standards and filling in gaps that we really kind of wanted to say, forget all that, let's just look and see where it is that we're supposed to be. And it was pretty eye-opening. In some places we were ahead, and other places we were behind. As we did that, one of the problems with the frameworks for some people is that as you look in the part in blue, this is what they would like us to do. They would like us to have students represent transformations as geometric functions that take points in the plane as inputs and give points as outputs. Compare transformations that preserve distance and angle measure to those that do not. So what skill should we be teaching? That's what makes this difficult. And then once we figure out what skill that is, how far do we go? So one of the things we decided to do is, because we had done all the pilots, we had lots of resources, and look at it from different places and different views, and then we decided to jump into the MCAS library. So the MCAS library, they have a digital library that has all of the previous MCAS questions, and we are very lucky at the high school that they release all of the questions, unlike the middle school and elementary school where they only release a portion of it. So we could actually dive in and click. So anything that you see here with a blue link, if this was live, I could click on it, and it's going to take me to what the question is. And then we wrote down what that meant. What it meant is we had to make sure that students knew how to graph and read transformations that move. They had to know how to graph and read reflections and how to move them. They had to know how to graph and read rotations and how to move them, as well as to be able to do transformations on rectangles, parallelograms, trapezoids, regular polygons. So that right there was a huge PD for all of us, to be able to sit down and say, hey, listen, this is what the standard says. This is what we think it means. Let's make sure that that's what it means, and how deep do they want us to take it. From there, we went ahead and grouped each standard, made units by standard and skill. We started off by creating an outline that started off with our objectives and our lesson breakdowns. And then we decided to go ahead and identify any skills that might need to be introduced before we start. So for example, if you're doing the Pythagorean theorem, you have to make sure that the kids know how to simplify square roots. So we wanted to make sure that that was covered in there as well, and find any of those gaps that we would have to fill in. From there, we went through a backward design. We started off with, this is what our kids need to know. How are we going to assess it? So we started off by creating those assessments using a backwards design. That was probably one of the trickiest parts. We made sure to include what we consider our best practices. We wanted them to look varied. In other words, it wasn't going to be an all multiple choice. It wasn't going to be an all open response. We wanted to incorporate the MCAS questions so that we knew that we were being authentic to the work that we were doing. So we created our assessments that way. That being said, we are creating our own assessments. After we go through them once, we say, oh, we might have to tweak this, we might have to tweak that. For example, in our geometry level 3, one of the things that we realize is that our units are too big, that we need to still assess the same things, but we can't go ahead and assess it all at once. We have to chunk it a little bit more, which if you did look at a lot of the students' IEPs, it requires them to chunk the material. We always think of it as learning, but we're thinking we need to chunk our assessments as well. So those are kind of the tweaks that we're making as we go through. Then we began creating our resources, which means now we're doing our PowerPoints. We're doing our practice pages. We're looking through the resources that we already have, such as IXL and Delta Math. And we also have to make sure that everything is accessible. So something that you don't think of is you just copy and paste something. That's great, but it doesn't necessarily translate. So how do you do that so all students have access? How do we make sure that our accommodations from our IEPs are being met through our materials? Some of the things that we found out by doing this are that this was the best PD we've ever had. We realized that our geometry was pretty on spot, but our algebra, we were all over the place. What I mean by that is we spent so much time in algebra making sure that we fill those skills that we didn't realize that we weren't necessarily getting as far as we usually had. And for years that was okay. It was just get them learning, get them in. But now what we decided to do is we said, forget it. We're not going to do linear in algebra anymore. We're going to go straight to quadratic. We're going to start with quadratic. We're going to work there and fill in the gaps as we go. What's one of the things that's happened? Well, we are literally doing factoring now, which is one of our last topics that we did last year. And that's with 12 weeks left of school. So that is huge for us to realize that we've made that kind of progress there. When teachers actually have the time to sit down and plan, amazing things can happen. And it is just like I said, this has been the dream team to be able to work with. The insight that they have, and they work together so well, it's just really been an honor for me. One of the things that is a little bit difficult is math is sequential. So although this year we're adapting our Algebra 1 and our geometry, we can't change our Algebra 2 for next year because those kids haven't had our new Algebra 1 yet. So they didn't start with quadratics, they started with linear. So it's a progression as we kind of have to implement that. On top of that, that works for us as well. We can't just start making an Algebra 2 until we're sure where our Algebra 1 is going to land. So our focus this year has been on algebra and geometry, and next year it will be on Algebra 2 and pre-calculus. Those will be our goals. Once again, like we said, it takes lots of time. We've been very lucky. The administration has been wonderful to give us some time during the school year to be able to meet and to kind of work on those resources and work on those assessments, because we couldn't do it all during the summer. So it's really been great. One of the focuses that we have been trying to do is to make it a little bit easier to move up to accelerated, particularly in Algebra 1 and geometry. So traditionally, our accelerated starts in grade 7, and we tell them basically you get 2 chapters or 2 units further, and in 8th grade you get 2 units further, and then in algebra you're 6 units further, and so you have to make up a whole half a year. We've been trying to create them so that they align a little bit better and pulling in individual units from Algebra 2, but still covering the same topic. So our Level 1, our Level 2, and Level 3 will all cover the same topics. But our Algebra 1, we're pulling in things such as complex numbers, which is an Algebra 2 topic, so that when kids come in, we can say, these are the skills that you would have to learn. So if you have a solid grade in Algebra 1 Level 2, then we can say, okay, you might be able to move up to accelerated if you can do these 4 or 5 topics, instead of saying, here's half a year of algebra to go learn on your own. So that's something we want to be a little bit more conscious of as we went through this. We can't do everything. So we have been working on our building thinking classroom tasks. We try to incorporate them about once a week. We thought we were going to get further with that, but creating the resources as we go has been more time consuming than we anticipated. We do map them to our curriculum. We're doing more of what we call thin slicing activities, more through discovery. So for example, on Thursday in geometry, we are doing 45, 45, 90 triangles, special right triangles, and we are creating a thinking task where they basically have to come up with the patterns. And at the end, they come up with the patterns and we say, hey, that's a rule. That's what we do. Instead of me saying, here's the rule, this is how you use it. So we're really just kind of approaching it a little bit different through that way. We're grading them on, this was a lot of our summer work too, how do we grade their thinking? We consider their thinking an assessment. We want to assess where they are. Each classroom has a 5-point rubric, 0 to 4, that goes through and basically gives them credit for staying on task and persevering, because those are really the 2 things we want them to be able to do. If they're not staying on task, they can't persevere. So it's really about those 2 things. So when we do that, we have, like I said, the rubric with the whiteboard moves all around the room. Are you using just one marker? Are you contributing to the group? Are you including everybody in your group to have a voice? And then the kids will also grade each other in their group. So, and then we take those grading sheets and kind of put them together with our final, excuse me, I have a little frog, with our final assessment, and it counts as 4 points, and that goes on their grade. If they miss one, you go, how do you make up a thinking task if you have to do it in a group and persevere? We allow them to do them during bridge blocks. So once or twice a week, a couple more as we get to the end of the term, I will offer a thinking task makeup up here in the glass classroom, and kids from all different classes come in and we'll make one up. We do a non-curricular task because I don't know where the kids are coming from. I don't know their background, but it's really kind of cool to watch when you see kids who don't know each other, from AP Calculus to Algebra 1, all sitting there together working on a problem that nobody's seen before, and just how they interact. It's been a lot of fun. AP scores, in all honesty, that has probably been the least of our concentration this year with everything else that has been going on. I say it every year, we can do better. We have to do better. But right now, it has not necessarily been our focus because of our curriculum writing. Conversations have happened, which have really kind of sparked my interest in learning a little bit more about these things. When all students are not taking the exam, I feel like it changes the culture of the course. And that's my own personal opinion. Teaching AP Calculus, when everybody took the test, it was like, okay, yes, we're all going, we're in this together. It was a team mentality. When we have people right from the beginning, excuse me, who know that they're not taking it, they're not taking the exam for a variety of different, very valid reasons, it just kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So the question is there a better way? And so I went up to actually computer science, because we were talking about grading for equity. We've done a lot of work with that, and just kind of talking about how the grade that they're getting on their report card reflects on when they get their AP grade, because they are not in alignment. And why is that? And so a lot of rich conversations have happened around that, including some self-reflection. I know for me, I'm falling behind. I have to pick up and be more proactive. So for example, we meet 6 out of every 7 days. Well, we drop 1. We need to be more proactive about using a bridge block to catch up on that class. Because you don't think about it when you're during the time, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I have more material I have to get through. I should have done this right from the beginning of the year and created it so that I wasn't dropping a class, which is a great use of bridge block. So there are ways around it. It's just about being reflective about it. Talking to the computer science kids, it was eye-opening. We have no one who is planning on taking the computer science A course test this year. And when I say why, they say, well, I'm not majoring in it. It's not going to count if I'm not majoring in it. Why would I spend that money on something that is not going to be used for me? But I enjoy computer science. I wanted to see how good I was at it, and I'm learning something. So I wanted to take the course, but it's not something that I'm necessarily going to pursue in college, which was a really interesting viewpoint for me to think about that way. And sometimes when we have singletons and something happens, it can be reflected in their grade. That's me. I took over the stats last year and wasn't even thinking. I went and did my best, but I came in at chapter 5. And when it came time to review for the AP exam, I will review from chapter 5 on because I wasn't really quite sure what had happened prior to that, right? They were prepared, but I couldn't help them with that. So it's just one of those things that you just need to be aware about. Our goals are basically going to be the same for 25, 26. I won't lie, 26, 27, and probably 27, 28. Curriculum writing is a process. We know that this is where our goal is. We have to incorporate how do we want the grades to look in terms of how are we grading. If we're doing all this work to become standards-based, how are we grading that and giving kids proper feedback? So that is something that we're talking about as well. We do have our AP scores. I don't know if you want me to go through them. I can say that you can see the data. They were not terrific. And conversations are happening, but like I said, unfortunately, this is probably the least of where our focus has been. So in calculus, the interesting part is we have 9 kids who took the test. 9 kids were in the class and only 2 chose to take the test. Those 2, ironically, were the kids who doubled up so that they could go ahead and take AP Calculus this senior year. They were not originally in the accelerated, and they wanted to see it all the way through. And I thought that was really cool. So those were the only, none of the kids who were in the accelerated decided to take it. AP Statistics, like I said, 15 out of 30 took it. I anticipate there would have been more had there not been a leave. Computer Science A, we only had 2 out of the 10 take it, and we had 2 out of the 10 take it. And our Computer Science Principles, which is one of our bigger ones, was 4 out of 19. Now, that being said, I've talked to the computer science teacher, and he's pretty amazing, and he will be very clear about what he does. He's a computer science engineer. Like, he teaches engineering, and he does a great job at engineering. And he has not necessarily been trained using the AP rubric. And he signed up for the training and went ahead, and they canceled it on him. So that being said, our grades might not be reflective of what you might normally see, but our kids are overflowing in our engineering classes. What they are doing in those classes are amazing. I walked in and they are creating, you know when you have to assemble something? They are creating the manuals that go with that, using their 3D, moving things around. It was pretty cool. I did get my 2 cents in when they asked for my opinion, and I said, will you please, if you're going to include a manual, make sure that when you have all the parts, put 1 extra screw for every part, because something will roll away. It will. So it's super helpful that way. And they're now super excited because they have permission to go to Bridgewater for computer science. I'm sorry, for cyber security. And they are very excited about that, knowing that really is kind of where the future is going. So a lot of good things are here that aren't necessarily reflected in the AP grades. questions? Oh, that's you,
Thank you,
sorry,
Ms.
Rich.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty, first of all. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Doherty? Feel free to ask.
I just have one comment. You said that you need to do better, and I love that you said that, not you necessarily, but teachers can always do better. And I'm still going to challenge the students and the parents to also do better, to meet teachers where they're at prioritizing school, attendance, consistent hard work, and respect for the gift and the privilege of education. So I like that that was put out there, and it's a partnership, and I put that challenge out to all parties.
Well, I can't say anything after that.
I was like, that was beautifully said.
No, agree. Relationship I feel like you've developed with us over the years, even coming back again and again and seeing the growth, and I know AP is its own animal too, and that structurally is just changing kind of through the course of nature. My only question, and I don't know if you can even answer this, I noticed that you said the frameworks is from 2017. Do we know when the next update is going to be? Because you're putting in a lot of work, and is there a likelihood that they might move some of the goalposts on you?
I didn't really think about that.
Okay, so I will really just stop talking now.
Our ones prior to that were 2011, and then they changed them to 2017. They're not really, it's still math. It's not like all of a sudden we're going to teach, so it would just cause us to move things. But I think we're in a place now that we could do that much more easily.
Okay.
So if they said we're going to add a new standard or the standard is going to be tweaked, it helps us the way that we have it set up now. Instead of going, oh, we have to buy a whole new book because it's different, when it really is just moved.
And I have heard a whole lot about that cybersecurity field trip, and it sounds pretty amazing. So.
I was hoping that I might be able to go on it. I'm just teasing.
Anybody else have any questions for Ms.
I
Doherty?
have some questions.
Go ahead, Mom.
So AP scores aside, the numbers in AP math classes are low. What are the alternatives, or based on what I experienced when I was in school, and the trends year over year for Abington? I'm curious if that's an anomaly for the year that we're looking at here, so the 2014 scores last year.
Honestly, like I can speak from my experience for calculus.
Yeah.
And last year we actually had 2 classes of stats, which was the most we've ever had. Having the 30 kids, it kind of makes that you have 1 big class or 2 smaller classes, and it depends basically where your needs are. This year we just have the 1. The calculus class is honestly the lowest one I've ever taught was 6, and the highest I've ever taught was 25-ish. This year I have 14, but it usually runs between 9 and 12.
Okay.
And it all depends on what else we're offering. So on a year that if we weren't running stats, there would be more kids in calculus. One of the things we did realize is that when we have a kid who has doubled up to take math their senior year and they get into calculus and they realize it's too big for them, there's no place for them to go. They need a 4th year of math. Even though they've already had their 4th year, they've taken 20 credits, the colleges want to see math their senior year. So that was a dilemma that we kind of ran into this year. And what we are looking for is next year is to bring back a discrete math so that there are more options for students. And that being said, I think that has also been part of my personal framework, because I don't want a kid who has been working at this their whole life to basically end up because they can't make it all the way down on a level 3 because we don't have an offer for them. So it was really important to me for next year to be able to bring back discrete math, and was supported by the administration, and we do have kids signed up for it. I don't think they're as different as they've been in previous years. We're just a small school.
Okay. Are there other opportunities outside of the computer science, the AP Stats and AP Calc, for students who are looking for academic rigor but who don't care about an AP score? They're still probably taking AP, even though they don't care about it because they're looking for the rigor.
Right.
Is that an accurate statement?
So
Okay.
we always have our pre-calc, which is where most kids land their senior year. But one of the conversations that we've had is whether to do dual enrollment. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. We also have the math team, that kids can come and join their rigor. We only have 4 meets a year, but it's a lot of fun. There's always pizza.
Okay.
So, I mean, that is something that we have been looking at in terms of having a dual enrollment type piece. It's kind of interesting, and once again, like I said, I can only speak kind of where I come from for the calculus. AP Calculus, there's 2 different tests. There's an AB and a BC. AB basically goes, if you want to call it 8 units, and BC covers 10. So one of the options that happens is that when a kid goes to school, if they pass the exam, they will go into Calc 2, but the first half will be review, because at a state school, or most schools, Calc 1 is units 1 through 5, and Calc 2 is units 5 through 10. So the AP exam covers Calc 1 and a half. So you're trying to get that half in. Whereas if you did dual enrollment, kids would still get credit for the Calc 1, and they wouldn't have to get that last part jammed in, like that rush at the end to do that.
And have we ever run BC Calc or no? 'Cause there's not enough
to
students.
my, yeah,
Okay.
not to my
Okay.
knowledge.
And then what about the transition both from the kids who are coming in from 7th, 8th, because they're still working on their old curriculum base, right?
Yep,
forget
so
what
you're
curriculum
absolutely
that-
right. I have not put that focus here, but they have been working on transitioning the same way we have been in terms of they've put a lot of their work into the building thinking classrooms. And then they're almost like a year behind us in the process. But one of the things we decided for them right now, because it was just really too much to bite off all at once, they're working with the fish tank series, which is, they've been piloting it this year, and we're going to continue with it next year. And what it is more of a skeleton. So it'll walk them through the units that they have to do, but still allow them to incorporate their building thinking classrooms. It's not as prescribed. It starts with anchor tasks, so that focus is where we need to go, is there the whole time. And then it walks them through the process to get there, and it's much more standards-based and discovery-based versus a traditional series.
Okay. And you're in both the 8th grade teachers, well, I guess 7th, 8th, 9th, everyone is working through the transition of your content with a curriculum that you're building right now at the high school. The pacing, I'm sure that there's going to be tweaks, like you mentioned, going forward. So I just want to ensure everyone has the opportunity to make sure that in September, teachers are picking up where students have left off, and there's no surprises with missing entire pieces of content or doubling up on pieces of content.
We usually, at the end of the year, will have our PD and kind of talk about, particularly our freshmen, once we know who's teaching what. Our freshman teachers, will meet with our 8th grade teachers, and they have that conversation about where did you land. And then I get that information before we even leave. Like, those are the things that we talk about at the end of the year, and we kind of put them all together and say, hey, listen, your kid's coming up next year, this is what they've missed. Because that's what we found out, is we spent so much time just repeating what they already knew. Because we just figured, oh, COVID, we better, and so that's not happening anymore.
Okay.
So yeah,
Great.
so it is something that we are working on. I can't say it's going to be perfect this year because it is our first year through it. It will be something I would assume that will get strengthened as we go.
Awesome. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doherty.
Thank
Up next, Mr. Rich Bykowski, Director of Tech for the Technology Department update.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for the time to come and chat about the APS Technology Department. The good news is that our staff has stayed stable, so this slide is the same as last year. I am the director. Oliver, our system support engineer, has been with me almost the entire time I've been here. Reese Papineau has been with us for a couple of years, and Vicki, I don't remember exactly when she came on board. It's probably about 5, 6, 7 years now. As our integration specialist, she's our interface from the tech side with the teachers, kind of showing them how the technology works in the classroom and how to bring that technology into the way students are learning. So what we do in the technology department, we make sure everything works. All the stuff that plugs into the network, all the laptops and desktops and printers and all those things. The good news in Abington is that we have a cycle of device replacement for our students and our staff that has funded from the town that didn't always exist. And so thanks for everybody in the town who approves that. It goes to town meeting and gets approved every year. And that has allowed us to get to a point now where we're starting to see that the devices that are in students' hands are younger than they used to be and more reliable. And that's obviously great because the kids don't have downtime. Teachers aren't worrying about students with computers that aren't charging or anything like that. So having that replacement cycle has been really helpful for us over the years. We've also started to get to a point where we built this building 8 years ago, and we bought a lot of equipment with that building, and some of that is starting to age out. So what we've been able to do is utilize federal funding through E-rate and things like that to kind of start a cycle of replacing that as well in a way that doesn't impact us as much financially, because we're able to leverage some of those federal funds. One of the things that we're doing, for example, is replacing wireless access points. So they're not things that you think about. You go into a room and the wireless just works. But when the device is 8 years old, at some point it's going to fail. So we're trying to make sure that we make sure those things are replaced ahead of time versus after the fact when the Wi-Fi's down in the library and nobody can get online. We also, as I mentioned, support and train staff mostly through Vicky's work with, using the technology that we have, using Canvas, how you access Aspen, and all the things like that. She creates amazing materials that are on our website and that go out to staff. Today was the first day of new MCAS with a new system, and it went as well as any MCAS administration has gone technology-wise since I've been doing it. And part of that is the materials that she provides to the staff. These are the things to look out for, and this is how the students can get through any hurdles that they may have. And again, that it was really great today. I was happy to see that. And we work with other departments, making sure that there's some cross-training or that we can improve the way things work so that, we're not pushing papers around in a way where we could, streamline things some way through a technology workflow. Every year, I like to talk a little bit about, how many tickets we get. So we use a system called Incident IQ where people put in help support ticket requests to us. We have a form that they fill out. They let us know where they are. They let us know a great time to meet them and what the problem might be. What you can see is that over the years, the number of tickets that we've been seeing is actually decreasing. And that's a good thing, I think. Again, I think it reflects on the fact that our device fleet in particular is newer. So we don't have students with computers that are 6, 7, 8 years old in their hands anymore. And so those computers that are 4 years older or less, which is what our goal is, those are more reliable. Those are able to do the things that we need them to do online. And so we can trust them to work. Our support process, particularly for students, is the students come here to the library media center and meet with Miss London or Miss Manzi to get some initial tech help, and they have been a huge help. They've actually seen a decrease in numbers, again, from students coming. Last year, at this time, they had seen 1,011 student visits, and this year it's 932. So all those numbers decreasing is good because it just means that our stuff is working. And I think, people are getting, over the years, more and more used to using Canvas, more and more used to using the things that we have. We haven't really implemented, or when we brought Canvas in, that was brand new. Now it's just kind of ingrained in the system. So, those questions don't come up as much as we used to get. How do I do this? How do I do that? Because now it's just part of the regular life in Abington. And as I mentioned, we are replacing things a little more proactively, or at least trying to. And that will just help make sure that our systems continue to work as we would expect. So technology projects, the first one I mentioned is every year we replace the devices. We provide our students in 5th grade and in 9th grade with a laptop, a brand new laptop, a bag to help protect that laptop, and a set of earbuds that they can use with a microphone. This year was new. We also got some funding for staff laptops. So we've been able to mostly fund staff laptops ourselves, but it's been much more difficult, obviously, to continue with that. So that amount of money is a huge help. We can purchase devices. And again, we do have some staff members who still have an 8-year-old computer, and Some of them just won't let go of it. But at some point, it's going to die and it needs to be replaced. So we need to have that stuff ready for them for when they can finally hand over that binky that they've had for the 8 years. This one thing, probably the biggest thing that we did this year was migrating our website and our communication system from the old system to ThrillShare, our new system. So far, I think the feedback on that has been good. You know, I like how our website looks and how it works. I feel like it's pretty easy to find what you need, and the search actually works pretty well on there. And we've gotten good feedback from the ability to make emergency calls. And, you know, we had a message this morning about Route 18, and so that goes out with a push message, and it goes out email, goes out, you know, to everybody in all of the different ways, which I think is good. I mean, someone probably says you're bothering me too much, but it's better to let everybody know in all these different ways versus somebody missing a message and, you know, why is the bus not here? Well, it's not here because Route 18 is closed. We are also piloting a system called Rooms, which I may have mentioned before, but what that is it's a two-way communication tool that's also built into ThrillShare. Some folks may be familiar with Remind or Class Dojo or other systems like that. What Rooms will allow our staff to do is communicate directly through an app with their families, their students' families. So instead of sending an email and hoping that somebody gets it and they may not notice it, you can actually send messages through an app. The families will get a push notification, and then they can communicate back and forth through that app. You can send pictures, you can send videos. We're piloting it right now. A larger email to the community will probably go out in the next couple of weeks, letting them know that we're piloting this and this is coming. And then next year, at the start of the school year, we'll be training everybody on using that and how that system will work. We have also, this year, set up online registration. We've been using paper registration. And so now we have an online system to do that. We've been piloting that with our kindergarten registration, and it seems to be going really well. There are a couple of bugs that we've worked out as we've gone through it, but nothing that's been earth-shattering. And so that system in the past was a family would fill out 15 pieces of paper and drop it at the Beaverbrook office, and then someone in the Beaverbrook office would input all that stuff into Aspen, and that would take forever, approximately. And so now it's being done online, and it'll just go directly into Aspen. It is checked by the secretary to make sure that all that information is correct and that residency is accurate and all that stuff. But now, instead of pushing thousands of pieces of paper, it can be done online, which I think it'll be a huge time saver in the office, but I think it also allows families to do it kind of on their time. You don't have to come in with some paperwork and hope you have everything that you need, and then, oh, gotta come back. You can just do it sort of on your own as it's convenient for you. The middle school this past year updated their report cards. They used to have a different report card for the different levels, 7 and 8 and 5 and 6. Now they have one report card, but it's based on the standards that are applicable to those grades. So we worked with the middle school administration and their committees to figure out for them how they wanted to make their report card work. And we, on our side, worked with Aspen, the Follett folks who, you know, run our student information system, to build that new report card. And it makes life a lot easier, I think, for the office, but it also gives you more of a standard experience across the school. And then one thing that we have is, and it's not critical in the sense that our phone system is going to die, but we're looking at the possibility and hope of replacing it before, again, it gets too old and it becomes an issue. Of all of the things that I support, I feel like the phone system is, you know, 1 or 1A at worst. If you wanted to say the internet was pretty important too. Like, if someone can't call the school in an emergency, or we can't call out if there's a need, that's a big deal. So I need to make sure that the phone system is working to the best it can. And so we're started to research the plan for, you know, replacing that. But again, this is sort of infancy, but it is coming. Nobody will notice it outside of the school. You just call the same number and it'll work, but it's important for the tech department. Cybersecurity is obviously another huge thing for us. We have to make sure that our systems are as secure as possible. We watch our systems, we monitor them, we update them, we make sure that everything is working as we would expect. We did implement multi-factor authentication for our staff last year, and we continue to make sure that any new staff are set up that way so that if their credentials are ever stolen or compromised, we have that second layer of protection. We've also spent time building out our incident response plans more for IT. We've had plans and we have plans in place, but what I'm really trying to do is kind of focus on making sure they're updated and making sure they're accurate. An incident response plan is a plan that you have that basically gives you almost like a playbook of what to do if something happens. So if we were to get hacked or ransomware or someone's account is compromised, that plan is something you can pull out and it will just give you information that you would need in an easy, like, I call Felicia and tell Felicia. Like, some of it seems basic, but when you're in an event and something's happening, if you can't Google it or the internet is down or whatever, so you may need to have contacts outside of the school. And so these plans give you, some of those steps. Like, these are the things that you should do. These are the important steps you need to understand. So while you're stressed out and freaking out, you're not also searching for those answers. You have them in place in advance. And this year, we were also applied for and were awarded a grant through the state that allows us to provide cybersecurity training to our staff. So we've done this in the past, but we'll be rolling it back out in September. Basically, that training involves short little snippets of this is how to recognize a phishing email, or this is why you shouldn't pick a USB drive up off the ground and put it in your computer, and the things that could go wrong if you do something like that. And so we'll roll that out in September, but we also have the ability to do phishing attack simulations. So we can use this system to send fake phishing emails to our staff. And it helps them to recognize, this is pretty weird. I don't think I should click on that link. But if they were to click on that link, it would provide them with additional training materials on, why you shouldn't do that and why this is a bad email and how they could recognize it in the future. Physical security is also something that we are involved with. We haven't made a lot of changes in that realm this year. In the past, we've gotten some grants and added cameras and doors and things like that. But we do continue to, make sure that the camera views that we have and the systems that are in place do work. We also help with, making sure their alarm codes are active and, and deactivated when people leave. So that's sort of an ongoing thing, but it's a marriage between kind of the maintenance department and the IT department, and that we both sort of watch those things. I think that's the last slide. So that's what I have. Obviously, feel free, any questions, I am happy to answer.
If anybody has any questions for Mr. Barkowski, feel free.
Of course I do. I was looking at you because you usually do too. So I know you mentioned the phone system for potentially a 25 consideration. Is there anything that you would say Abington is lacking for technology that we need to think about? I know we're not rolling in the money in Abington, but just curious, is in education, are there new technologies that we haven't adopted yet? Like thinking about smart boards and things like that I know came out a long time ago. Is there something new out there or no?
As far as hardware, not really.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
I think nowadays most school districts are, for example, putting smart screens up versus smart projectors, but they kind of do the same thing. And we do have some smart screens in the pre-K, and there are some targeted areas at Beaverbrook, for example, so they have like a large touch screen device, which people like, but the reality is that it does the same thing as the projector. So, the things that happen it's the same stuff that happens with the rest of the world technology-wise. There's a new, faster Wi-Fi. So our access points don't handle that. So when we start to replace those, now we have systems that can handle, your new laptop can go this fast, but our Wi-Fi can only go this fast. So when we replace the access points now, the Wi-Fi that we have can, take advantage of that new technology in the devices. I don't think there's anything specific, at least I can't come up with anything off the top of my head, especially hardware-wise, that would be like, oh, we're missing whatever. Like, we have voice lift systems in our room, so teachers can wear microphones and the kids can hear them without the teacher yelling. We have document cameras in every room, so they can, show their materials on the board. And again, we target, if there are students who have vision issues, like we'll work to make sure that those are addressed and for those students so that they can access the education just like anybody else can.
Great, thank you. And then my other question was, well, first a comment. ThrillShare and the communication platform, I have found that that's fantastic. Just a plug for
Glad to hear
anyone, because I know there's been Facebook chatter. If you don't get the emails and the texts, check Aspen. That's the correct guidance, right? I think someone put together.
Yeah,
well,
so
this
I
is what-
actually recently went out a little while ago, maybe a week or two ago, that you can go in Aspen and make sure that your contact information is correct so that you get those text messages. As long as that information is correct in Aspen, it just syncs with ThrillShare, and then it just works that way. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that email just went out, right? Do you know how much longer that link stays live for?
It'll be on the website forever until we take it off. Like the link that was sent out via ThrillShare to go to this link, that will never go away, or it shouldn't go away.
Okay.
I will also plug, though, there is an app, so if you haven't downloaded the app yet, please do. That'll be part of that message that I said I'll be sending out soon about the rooms. That requires the app, so I'll also be sending another email out about that, but if you're listening, feel free to download our app, please.
Great. And the last question is on AI. And this, I don't know if this is a building-related issue or a principal-related issue, but Mr. Bourne's here, and I know we're talking about a topic later. AI cheating resources. What do we do at the district network level to keep students from using information inappropriately in an educational setting, if anything, at the district?
Yeah, so we do not block access to AI. For better or for worse, AI is just here, I do understand, and there have been plenty of conversations about how do we combat students just taking AI and using it to write their paper with no input on their end at all. And if Mr. Bourne wants to speak to it, that's fine. But we just sort of decided that we're not going to stop it. I think what we really need to do is kind of address it, particularly with the teachers and the students, recognizing that the teachers have that relationship with the kids, and hopefully they can recognize that, Rich writes in a certain way or speaks in a certain way, and now all of a sudden it looks nothing like that. There are good and bad things with it, certainly, but our stance has not been to block it, because the reality is they'll just find another way to get to it.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be addressed more at the building in a way that it's like, hey, you can use this maybe as a tool to help you, but you still need to create your own content.
Thank you.
Rich, I have a quick one.
Yep.
I think. We'll find out, right? So I know in some of the cases the test assessments are given online. Is peer assessment, am I getting that right? Is that a thing?
It's called Edulastic now,
Okay.
I think, but
Okay.
they just rebranded.
So I've heard that there may be inability. So I'm thinking of it like timely student feedback, right? I've heard that there may be an inability to download the test to show the students if everybody hasn't completed it. Is there workarounds for that? Is that an actual fact, or is that just something I may have heard that's not true?
Can you give me the question again, because I'm not sure.
So let's say a whole class takes a test, 2 kids are out.
Yep.
One of the students wants to get the test back to actually see the feedback, show it to their parents, go over it. The teacher can't get it because not everybody in the class has completed the test yet. Is that fact or fiction, I guess would be?
I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that, to be honest. For that particular product, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
All right.
I know that, for example, if you take an online test in Canvas, you can see your feedback a little bit sooner, but most teachers actually hold their answers and their feedback until everybody has done the work. So it's not like, oh, Mr. Bourne got 100, I'm going to ask him what his answers were because I know he got them all right. So I can't speak specifically to
Okay.
that product, but my guess is that even if it's true, it may just be a factor of the teachers not releasing that feedback until
Gotcha.
everyone's
Okay,
finished.
all right. Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead.
Rich, have you noticed a decrease in the destruction of laptops? Because I remember last year, I believe you came to some school council
Yep.
meetings and showed us what was being done to some of the computers.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if, when you implemented those, the letters home, if that was making a
I
difference.
think that has had an impact. I will suggest that there's still a level of damage that I would prefer was lower. But Another factor is that the devices that we're supplying now are a little sturdier, I think, than in the past, so they're newer and sturdier. There are still lots of accidents, things happen, something might get pushed off a desk or whatever, but I do think that the sort of wanton destruction that may have happened in the past seems to have toned down. There's a little bit more destruction in the middle school, and there's less as it gets into the high school, but, and again, 0 would be the perfect number, but I do think I don't have numbers to back it up, but it feels like it trends in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Rich.
Is there going to be a prize for the seniors who turn in an original laptop?
I've already seen a couple that have come back just, because they're older, and so sometimes the battery might die or something, and some of them amaze me, the condition.
Oh, those are the 8-year-old
The quality
computers, right?
condition there.
Oh, yeah,
The current seniors have the 8-year-old
They're
computers.
7, I think. They're
Okay.
7.
Yeah.
because they cycled through the class
Yeah.
ahead of them and then came to them, and some of them
So there are
have
some out there. I
refused
don't
to
know.
give them
Maybe
up.
we'll have to come up with something for the best.
I think there should be
condition
prize,
laptop
just
in the
saying. But to your argument about update your computer, it just needs to come with something.
Thank you, Rich. Up next is, I'm guessing, I'm going to leave this to you guys, but Dr. Basta and Dr. Robbins on
Correct.
summer programs to work together on the two
Yep.
things.
And I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Robbins and I are going to share a quick update of what's happening this summer, at least what we're planning. And I'm going to talk first about our traditional summer academy. You might remember from our update in August, I think, last summer we did not run a high school summer academy because the enrollment was so low. And that's been a trend that we've seen for a few years. So as a team, we made the decision that we're going to start earlier informing families of other resources rather than us pushing our summer academy for high school students who need credit recovery or for promotion. That's not the trend that we're seeing. Instead, we're seeing people take advantage of online programs or other area programs that maybe just fit better the needs of that particular student or that family. So there will be no high school summer programming for credit recovery housed at AHS this summer. Instead, we'll be providing resources. Here's where you can go for some online options. Here are some local options in nearby districts. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes.
My concern last year was the criteria that we use for the quality of the program and what we're accepting. So I just didn't know if between last year and now, if we have anything in place to verify what the work that they do, quality of the work they do, and does it count towards an actual high school class?
So I think the similar answer that we gave the last time you raised that question, and it's a very valid question, is if the hosting party is not accredited, but if they are a public school or they are following DESI's guidelines, that's what we're trusting. Just like we receive students from other towns for our middle school program, they're trusting when we say this is what they completed, it's based on DESI standards.
I guess I'm more skeptical of the online programs than I
Yep.
am of the in-person
Yep.
programs.
As are we, so there will be more scrutiny on any credits that are being requested for online program.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. So, as I just said, we will be running, like we did last summer, a middle school summer academy that is fee-based. You might remember after the federal COVID relief grants sunsetted, we returned to tuition-based summer programming. And so middle school students who need, again, for credit or for participation because they didn't attend enough classes, et cetera, they can register for our middle school summer academy, and it is also open to other area middle schoolers. So some more details about that specifically. It will run July 7th to August 1st, those 4 weeks. Each course they're kind of doubled up. So you have humanities, ELA, and social studies, and then you have STEM, science and math. And each one of those runs for 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours, Monday through Friday for those 4 weeks. It's for students in grades 7 and 8. And you can see the cost for Abington residents as well as non-residents.
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday. Did I say Friday?
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. Any other corrections or questions?
When? Go ahead, Pam.
Are you sure? When are the middle school students informed that they need to attend the summer sessions?
I don't know exactly. Anybody in the audience know? I believe it is around April.
So
Late April?
I think it's even later. They're told that they're in danger of having
Right.
to attend summer school and then have the remainder of the year. And so the final decision, I mean, there's some students that are going to know right away, in May, that they have not successfully completed the academic year. But there's other students that, with a little more push, might get there by the end of the year. So it is later in the year, but it has to be because for a significant number of students, they can get there and pass the courses. So it is late. But that's not, for an absolute, you have to attend, but there's multiple failure meetings throughout the year.
Not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
And then what happens if a student is not able to afford to go to the summer session?
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and typically we have not, pardon?
Yeah, just past experience.
Yeah, typically we have not had waivers for the summer program with the idea that you're given an opportunity to successfully complete your middle school year for free in a year. And now you didn't do that, so now you have to go at an additional time and it would be at the parents' pay. We have done payment plans with families, but in order to attend, there's not a waiver process.
Okay. Sorry, Melanie.
No, that's fine. 2 questions. One, student needs to go to summer school to get credit. Student chooses not to or is unable to for various reasons. Does the student repeat the prior grade? What if it's only one or the other? Or is it just a gap in knowledge at the middle school level?
Yes, that's a logical consequence, that they're going to have a lot of makeup work or catching up to do when they start grade 9.
Okay. And then in the middle school level, do they have an opportunity to utilize other district opportunities as well? Or do they have to go to Abington? For example, Whitman-Hanson runs a program for $200. Can they choose to go there in 7th or 8th? I'm making up the Whitman-Hanson comment. That is not a real comment. It was a fake
Sam was going to be
scenario.
running to Whitman. Yeah, yes,
Yes,
they
they
can
could.
attend.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Do we have projected numbers about what we would expect to see in this program for the summer?
No, last summer, I think we had 10, 12, and 3 of those were students from other districts. So it's not a large number, but it's significant enough for us to run the program. and
Bigger
pay
than
the
we would
teachers.
like, but,
Yeah.
Yes.
okay. And we do open it to other districts?
Yes.
Okay.
No other questions for me? Then I'm
Thank you,
going to
Dr. Boston.
pass it over to Dr. Robbins.
Hey everyone, I'm here to share just a few quick notes about our extended school year, which is the formal name for special education summer school. So the first thing I'll just be talking about is what is the nature of the program. So if there are any listeners wondering what it is, or if it's appropriate for their child, I'll be sharing information on that. So the first thing to know is that this program is only available for eligible students. So first of all, you have to be a student with a disability who's supported by an IEP. And then secondly, your IEP team has to make the conclusion that you are eligible for the extended school year. The criteria for being eligible for the summer program is that you're a student whose disability makes you vulnerable to regression. Because on average during the summer months, there tend to be about 11 weeks, 77 days of summer on average. And there are some students whose disability makes it more likely that they're going to lose skills and knowledge during those 11 weeks. So the idea is that then they're vulnerable to starting the school year with a double deficit, one of which is they have the disability to begin with, and then second of which is that they likely experience some level of regression. So based on that dynamic, that's why special education law mandates that all school districts run extended school years. So I just want to offer a few additional notes on the special education summer program. So first of all, as I mentioned, the intent of the program is first and foremost to prevent regression. And then secondly, we look to promote readiness among our students. So this involves reviewing the skills that they'd learned during the previous year, but also previewing skills that they're going to encounter at the start of their school year. So we take kind of a combined approach there. The way we organize the program is we offer a classroom at each grade level. Depending on the number of students, sometimes we'll offer multiple classrooms. And the way we divide up the time is to emphasize ELA-related skills and math-related skills, while also the teacher differentiates the activity to make sure that students are getting work on their individual goals. We also offer a number of TLC classrooms, and those are more intensive programs that aim to provide academic exposure, but also develop social skills, participation skills, and those classrooms will also integrate related therapies, such as activities to promote gross motor skills and fine motor skills, and social communication, and so on. The listener should also know that we offer all of our related services over the summer. So that means we do make sure we have a physical therapist available, speech language therapist, and occupational therapist to eligible students. And also just for us as a staff who works within the special education department, the summer offers for us at times a bit of an exciting opportunity to trial new arrangements for students. So some of that might be to trial different groupings. Say we think a student is ready for a less restrictive experience, we might try to simulate that for them over the summer to get them ready for the year ahead. Additionally, oftentimes something we deal with in the world of special education is school avoidance and school phobia. Virtually every summer in recent memory, we've helped a student overcome their school phobia just by allowing them to gradually get into the habit of returning to school over the summer months. So those are just some basic facts about our summer program if you were unsure of it and were wondering if it might be appropriate for your child. If you think it might be appropriate and you're not already connected, you'd have to work with your IEP team to make that determination. And then the other part that I just want to share with people is just the basic details of our summer program, so those folks who will be accessing it can start planning ahead. And a lot of these details are consistent with what Dr. Basta shared about about our middle school program. So first of all, the dates are July 7th to August 1st. So this is it starts the first Monday after the July 4th holiday, and then it runs Monday through Thursday for 4 consecutive weeks. The hours are from 8:30 to 12:15. So that's 3 hours and 45 minutes per day. It takes place at right here, 201 Glenowitz Way. We make use of this nice facility and its temperature-controlled environment, and it seems to work really well. This just involves transporting necessary furniture from some of the other buildings, and we've kind of got that down to a science at this point. When it comes to grade level served, this year we're anticipating to serve student needs expanding from pre-K all the way to grade 12. Some folks who have seen this presentation in the past might remember that we tended to stop service at grade 8 in some of the past summers, but we currently have a cohort of students at the high school level who we anticipate needing service, so that'll be offered there as well. What's addressed during the summer months, like I said, the classrooms emphasize math and ELA skills, but all teachers strive to differentiate and incorporate IEP goals and objectives. Is there transportation? If your IEP specifies, yes. And also, one additional aspect is just so that we can plan for the summer. 'Cause, planning is so important in terms of having the right number of staff, but probably most importantly for the students is having appropriate student groupings. So having them with peers, one, that they're enthusiastic to be with and are at the right academic level. We ask parents to register. So if a parent does not register, that does not preclude them from attending, but it just really helps our planning. So parents will be getting an email from me on April 7th, if they're eligible, to ask them to just register, because many of our parents, many families who are eligible will actually bypass the summer program because they have plans, or may just attend a week or two. And so the registration process lets us know that well ahead of time so we can incorporate that in our planning. So that's all the information I wish to share with everyone tonight. And I'm just going to pause if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Robbins? I'm just going to put my plug in that it's an amazing program, personally speaking. So thank you for continuing to run it. Thank you for all you do for it and all the staff that works there.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Dr. Robbins. Mr. Bourne, I'm going to pass it to you for student handbook commentary.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I believe you have a copy of my proposed changes to the Abington High School Student Handbook. The first proposed change would be a complete new addition around dual enrollment. We are fortunate to have partnered with Quincy College to offer dual enrollment credits for certain courses at Abington High School. That list may expand, but presently for next school year, we are set to partner with Quincy College for environmental science and psychology. This is just a great opportunity for kids and families if they would like to take advantage of that. So we just hope to capture that language in our handbook, just as a reference point for any families that are interested. I just think because it's new, we've talked about it here, maybe pause here if you had any specific questions about dual enrollment. Okay, thank you. The next item is more housekeeping, just updating language about the student representative to the school committee. This is just clarification that it will be a senior that serves a one-year term. There was just some confusing language about a junior being elected to a two-year term, and it's just been tidied up to a senior for a one-year term, would be the next recommendation. The third recommendation I would make is this body has already approved the updated competency determination language in the program of studies. It would be removing the old language that is in the handbook and replacing it with the already approved competency determination language in our handbook. And the final piece would be to remove and update our statement of academic integrity. The new statement of academic integrity does two things. First, and I think this is alluded to earlier, it specifically has a statement addressing the use of artificial intelligence, or AI. We believe in the statement that until or unless a teacher specifically says a student can or should use AI in any portion of their assignment, that it is prohibited, which should just allow teachers on a case-by-case basis, if they do decide to use it, to give students that option. The real distinct hope is that students are generating work that is distinctly their own. The second component of this language is also in alignment with some of our recent research about grades and grading. Minimally, just to make sure that throughout the building, students are facing the same set of expectations and consequences for cheating or plagiarism, as opposed to it being a teacher-by-teacher, department-by-department situation. For example, one teacher might give a 0 for assignment, the other gives half credit. We wanted to just level that out. So that speaks a little bit to that below, in addition to the procedure. In doing some of our research, we do want our consequences to both be a deterrent and an opportunity for restoration, a learning opportunity for students. So we feel that our procedures would do both, that when or if an academic integrity matter has been brought to the principal or the assistant principal, who have determined that an academic integrity violation has taken place, it begins our due process, as with all matters of the student handbook, and puts a freeze in that student's credit for that quarter. One thing we've often found is students will be like, I'll just take the 0, and then therefore miss the learning opportunity, or say, what can I do? I get a 0. And we feel that if it's an important assignment, we need to see that students work on that. So this kind of forces them to do the assignment and to do it right. Hopefully, and we will get out of this in the fall to make sure students know about this, to just avoid any of this and just please do the work that's assigned to them so we can see what they know. This would make them ineligible for any extracurricular activities while this is underway. We do hope that also provides a sense of urgency for the student and family to meet with us, to have a conversation, to reflect, grow, learn, to prevent this from happening again. And then once the student has satisfactorily demonstrated their knowledge, they may get a minimal passing grade on that assignment to then restore credit for that class. We want to make it the case where it doesn't just be something where they just skip it and the learning never happens either on the assignment or the importance of why it's important to do their own academic work. Once that happens, the incomplete or the freeze on their grade gets lifted. And this would apply into June, that if we had a student who did plagiarize or have an academic integrity violation at the end of the year, it would hold their end of year credit until we're able to resolve that with the student and family. That's the totality of the proposed changes for the Abington High School student handbook.
Any questions from, go ahead, Daniel.
Under the cheating, it's very clear. My one question is always the kid that says, well, I cheated and it's what I did is not listed here. Do we need anything for and anything else we deem to be cheating?
It's a good question. I don't believe so. I think that, I would hope that adding artificial intelligence, I know that's topically important to a nearby town that we learned from as well, to specifically put artificial intelligence in here. I believe we generally can have latitude to say, we understand that to be a problem. And we can, on a case-by-case basis, say, we disagree with what you did, here's our consequences. And so I don't think we are bound to that.
And then my other question is honor society, because to me an honor society is honor. For Abington High School, will you remind me if a kid violates this policy, are they allowed an honor society?
It's a great question. It's honestly a question of degree also, as we can imagine in the scale of ways one might demonstrate academic integrity. For example, and I don't think it would get to my level or Ms. Casey's level, if a student failed to cite a source, that technically is plagiarism, right? But we'd hope that to be held at the classroom level. And if the student's like, oh my gosh, I missed it, fix it, great, learning done, and that's the end of that. The National Honor Society will definitely speak to us about the scope and scale of any academic integrity violations as part of the application process if the student reports them or if they're known to us. And if, while members, that can be a matter that gets discussed by the Faculty Council for the National Honor Society. And again, there's a range of options that the National Honor Society can handle. In addition to just there being a violation, is how does the student comport themselves for the duration of those proceedings?
My one comment, if I could add, is I think the conversations that happen at home are very important as it relates to this policy. So if we can just ensure that as we kick off the new school year, not just for incoming freshmen, but for anyone who has a high school student, and I would say maybe we should think about this for the middle school as well, please communicate thoroughly in as many different formats, because a lot of people don't read the emails and maybe don't even read the text messages. But if we can try and get this in the hands of families to ensure the conversation's happening at home, I think that'll do a lot to support this language.
Thank you. Agreed.
Mr. Bourne, do you know when, forgive me, I just don't know when, so when would this relates to the, to Anna's position?
Mm-hmm.
When do the elections take place normally?
So they have historically happened in the fall. Each
Okay.
year we do try to do some upper class elections
Yep.
before we leave at the end of the school year.
Okay.
It usually has to just work itself out with
Yep.
MCAS and graduation and
Okay.
things. But it has been a goal to do some upper class elections in June, so we know going into the
Okay.
summer.
All right.
But usually they're done by October 1.
Okay, all right, great. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the 2025-2026 Abington High School Student Handbook amendments as presented by Mr. Bourne.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bourne. Up next is Ms. Baresi, the principal of Woodsdale Elementary, for the Woodsdale School Improvement Plan.
Good evening. I'm excited to present Woodsdale's school improvement plan for next year. I wanted to start the presentation by thanking our school council members, Erin Tribuco and Courtney McFadgen, our 2 grade 3 teachers, Ed Donahue and Sarah June, our parent representatives, and Danielle Grafton, our school committee member. Thank you so much. So here's a summary and some highlights and celebrations of our goals and outcomes over this past year. In relation to Goal 1 for culture and inclusion, we have a PTO powerhouse at Woodsdale, such an incredible organization who we work very closely with, and they have been extremely devoted to making sure that we have the very best enrichment programming that we can offer to kids. And we just had Matt Hegarty, who is a phenomenal graphic novel author, visit Woodsdale last week for a full-day residency. He was such an inspiration. He is someone who grew up with dyslexia and overcame his disability to become a children's book author. So as you can see in the picture here, he met with groups of students to talk about the writing process. He was incredibly engaging and really focused on, he was drawing like on demand based on what the students' ideas were, and just really showing them how to embrace their mistakes and not get stuck. So he was just amazing. With Goal 2 for teaching and learning, we built on using MTSS, which are multi-tiered systems and supports. We had been using this framework within our academic sector to transform reading instruction for the first 2 years that I led Woodsdale. And then in working with kids, we started to see the importance of social emotional learning. So we started to unpack that this year to use that framework for some data-driven decision-making. And then in Goal 3, for Woodsdale being a safe place and a space for kids to become their best selves, we really transformed the content of morning meeting to strengthen their social emotional skill sets and toolkits. When I got to Woodsdale, the teachers had been using morning meeting as an awesome space for kids to start their school day. I think there were a lot of individual differences with how teachers were using the time. And so what we did this year is we used the SEL framework from the Department of Education, those competencies, to really land on skill sets, and we partnered those skills with the Second Step curriculum to just make sure that we all had universal language with morning meeting to again help kids be their very best selves. So for example, we started out the school year with kids understanding themselves and their own sorry, I had a brain freeze. We showed kids how to reflect on themselves, to understand their emotions and being able to articulate their emotions themselves. And now we're looking at like the social emotional states of others, working on empathy and like how something that you do or say how that makes other kids feel. So I think making these changes in morning meeting has really helped to lift the lever of that we're all using the same language and the same skill sets to help support kids with this very important foundational underpinning for teaching and learning. So we're moving into year 2 of our school improvement plan, and last year we worked really hard to align our goals with the district's strategic plan. So not much really is changing as we're moving into next year. So we still have the same goals and action steps. So for Goal 1, within culture and inclusion, we're going to continue to develop a positive, equitable climate and culture of care, utilizing inclusive practices to engage and support all students and staff. Goal 2, under teaching and learning, we're going to continue to use multi-tiered systems of support as a framework to positively impact the social, emotional, behavioral, and academic needs of all students. And then for Goal 3, we're going to continue to have Woodsdale be a safe space and place to learn for kids to become good citizens. And we're going to continue to organize and manage a high-quality, safe environment devoted to high-quality teaching and learning. We'll continue those strong partnerships with the Abington Police Department, with the Fire Department, to make sure that Woodsdale is as safe as it can be. Short and sweet. Do you have any questions?
Do I have any questions for Ms. Barassi? Ms. Barassi, I have one thing I just want to talk about. In terms of, I lost it too. You had a brain freeze earlier. I just lost where I was too. When you talk about, I guess it's, when I'm looking at it, so it's school improvement goal 1, it was like block 4. It talked, like one of the indicators of accomplishment is rebranding the PTO to create a forum to spark positive conversations about the climate and culture of the school. What do you mean by like rebranding? Like how, I guess, how would something like that come about?
I think we were looking to expand it so that if parents really had a strong passion for academics, maybe we would host a curriculum coffee once a month and have a little forum to talk about what, reading workshop looks like at Woodsdale, or what our math block looks like, or what social studies and science instruction with project-based learning looks like. Or if we had other parents who might be more passionate about safety, maybe we have, a meeting, a trimester meeting to bring folks together to talk about different ways that we could keep Woodsdale safe. I think it was looking to tap into other parents who are more excited about other aspects of the school day, maybe than in addition to social engagements and enrichment opportunities, which is what PTO has traditionally sparked
Okay.
for a partnership.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have anything, Ms. Barassi? Ms. Barassi, thank you to your entire school council team. So before you step away, I know you've decided to pursue other opportunities after the school year. That's going to lead us into our next item on the agenda. But I just want, on behalf of the school committee, I want to thank you for your time at Woodsdale, the time you've put in, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I've enjoyed my time very much.
Up next on the agenda, I am going to pass it over to Dr. Michella.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to take this opportunity to officially introduce and welcome Melanie Savicki as the next principal at the Woodsdale Elementary School beginning on July 1st. Melanie has been with the Abington Public Schools since 2019. She has served as the assistant principal at the Beaver Brook since 2002, and previous to that, she was a teacher at both the Abington Early Education Program and Beaver Brook Elementary School. Additionally, Ms. Savicki was a special education coordinator at Sacred Heart School in Rosendale and a teacher in a substantially separate classroom in Dedham. Ms. Savicki attended Plymouth State University and received a bachelor's degree in early education, also played field hockey, I believe. She has her master's degree in special education from Lesley University and a certificate of advanced graduate studies from Curry College. And probably what, besides all of that, what Melanie is most proud of is that she's a resident and active member of the Abington community and the proud parent of 2 children who attend the Abington Public Schools. And I know they're very excited as well. So welcome officially, Melanie. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm going to follow Jen's tune and keep this short and sweet. I am beyond excited, and to say I'm extremely honored would be an understatement. As Felicia had alluded to, I am a embedded community member in more ways than one. And I've seen the support that this community offers to our public school systems. So for the committee and the families and the administration to trust me with this next generation moving into this community is surreal. So thank you. I'm excited. to continue what Jen's been working on. Thank you.
Congrats, Melanie. We look forward, I mean, we just look forward to everything you'll be able to bring to Woodsdale from your experience at Beaverbrook and before that. So best of luck to you. And as you finish out Beaverbrook, which leads to our next item on the agenda. But thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Not yet.
You'll have.
You'll have them. You'll have them.
Wait, just you wait. We come with plenty of those.
Yeah.
So as mentioned, next item, I'm just going to pass over. Dr. Boss is going to take it, Beaverbrook Elementary School Assistant Principal Search.
Thank you. Just to keep the committee updated, we are embarking on an assistant principal search to replace Mrs. Savicki as the assistant principal at Beaverbrook Elementary School. The position was posted for 2 weeks, March 7th to March 21st. Currently, Mrs. Thompson, who is leading the committee, is forming a committee that will include 4 certified staff members from Beaverbrook, 1 support staff member from Beaverbrook, 2 parents from Beaverbrook, a school committee member who I think
It's Pam Neely.
is Pam Neely,
Yes.
thank you, and I will also be on the committee. And that committee will be looking through applicants and developing a profile of just pretty much the same path we followed for the Woodsdale principalship, developing a profile of what the community is looking for based on feedback from stakeholders, developing an interview list of interview questions, and and then selecting as a group the people who most match the profile that's been developed of what the assistant principal position needs or what we're looking for at Beaverbrook. So that will happen on April 1st. Interviews are scheduled to be on April 8th, and then the week of April 14th or somewhere around there. The plan is for any finalists to be interviewed for the final decision-making by Dr. Michella, with an announcement at the April 29th school committee of any new appointment.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Bosta. Up next, fiscal year 26 budget update. I'm going to look to Ms. Saragini.
Of course.
Hi, everyone. I first would like to thank Heidi and Pam, our Budget and Finance Subcommittee members, and also the town manager, town accountant, and the Finance Committee at Town Hall for their input, their involvement, their support, and their assistance through the budget development process the last few months. In your packet tonight, you have a copy of our increase by major category sheet. The budget number you see on this sheet is the same that you saw at our last meeting. We have a level service budget number, which is a 5.0% increase over this fiscal year's budget number. I'm going to go ahead and give this number a shot. Here we go. The budget number being $32,354,265. This number represents a consensus with the town, and this is the number that will be presented at town meeting on April 7th, which is also at 7 p.m. in the middle high school auditorium.
Anybody have any questions? Pam and Heidi, thank you. I know that's not always the best to have to go through all the numbers, and especially when it's not the greatest here, so thank you for your time on that subcommittee.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Right,
you.
thank you, Sarah. Up next, I'm just going to take it. Did you want to add anything? Or?
Nope. I just want to add that we'll be asking the committee to vote this number at our meeting prior to town meeting.
Okay, thank you. Up next is, for I think the second time, that's the second time it's going to be you now?
Yeah, it's weird.
So the Reeds, for the 2025-2026 school year, Reeds Collaborative Board of Directors, historically, the superintendent has served as our representative. So unless anybody has any questions or anybody want to do it. I'll be looking for a motion to appoint Dr. Felicia Michella to serve as the Abington Public Schools representative on the Board of Directors of Reed's Collaborative for the 2025-26 school year.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I'm not, this, for the same reason I said Reed's, we also have for North River Collaborative. So I'll be looking for a motion to appoint Dr. Felicia Michella to serve as the Abington Public Schools representative on the Board of Directors of North River Collaborative for the 2025-26 school year.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. New business establishment of the next school committee meeting. As Dr. Michelle just mentioned, and as Sarah mentioned, town meeting is Monday, April 7th at 7 p.m. Prior to that, the school committee will meet at 6:30 p.m., probably in the classroom, to essentially finalize the budget that's right here that we're going to go into town meeting with. And then our regular school committee meeting for April will be held on Tuesday, April 29th, 6:30 p.m. here in the library. Some informational items. The only thing I wanted to call out is Dr. Michelle and I decided to include the letter that was sent to Woodsdale families as part of the safety thing. A similar one was sent to the middle school, but anybody in the district who hasn't seen it can kind of see some of the steps. It's some of the things she read off of earlier tonight when we both spoke about the steps taken in certain safety issues. But that kind of gives it there, and we wanted to include this here for any of them as a kind of a formality of what takes place whenever there's a threat made. Heidi, I know you had something you wanted to mention on information.
Yeah, I actually have 3 things.
Go
if
for
that's
'em.
all right,
Yes,
and
go
I'll go
ahead.
fast.
Yep.
Number 1, just want to send out congratulations to the cast and crew of Once Upon a Mattress that was held here at the high school. It was a fantastic show. Number 2, mad gratitude, huge props, and a lifetime of thanks to everyone who came together to make the first intergenerational senior prom
College,
happen. It was pure magic, and I'm still smiling, and it was incredible. So that was enormous. Huge thanks to our National Honor Society, our half-day intergenerational hangout crew, the folks at the Senior Center. It was quite the event, and we're hoping to make it an annual thing. And also thanks to the people who helped loan prom dresses, because that way we could get more kids into gowns for the day at no cost to them. The third thing is every year our Project 351 ambassador leads a spring service, usually with Cradles to Crayons, and that drive is happening starting on Monday. There will be boxes at Beaverbrook, at Woodsdale, here on the middle school and the high school side, and also at the police station. Thank you to those people for allowing us to have that as a host site. We are seeking donations for newborn up to adult size medium. These donations go to Project 351, or not to 351, through 351, they go to Cradles to Crayons, and their main thing is quality equals dignity, which is, I think, a huge thing. So the donations they ask for, like new items, no pilling, no stains, no tears. Oddly enough, things that have town mentions, so like even though we love our Beaverbrook shirts, those aren't the things that we can pass along to families in need. If you've never had a chance to visit their facility, it's a great organization, and any help you can give to donate would be lovely. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Heidi. You mentioned Monday, and I thought of it as March 31st, and I remember. So I want to say a week from now, next Tuesday, the nominations for the Chet Millett and the Deidre Volunteer Award will also close for anybody who still wants to make any of those nominations. Some dates to remember, besides what we just mentioned, tomorrow, Wednesday, March 26th, at the Senior Center, there's going to be an open house basically about the town budget related to trash services. It's going to be a major item that's going to come up at town meeting, so if you have any questions, tomorrow is the night to probably get them answered in a more encouraging format, maybe the best way to describe it. It takes place at 6 p.m. at the Senior Center. Thursday night, March 27th, artist Rob Surrett is going to be in the auditorium here at 6:30 p.m. Tickets are $10 each. You can buy them at the door, or if you go to he's going to be sponsored by the Abington Education Foundation. If you go to the AEF's Facebook page, they also have a square link to order tickets there. And he'll be raffling off 6 of his art prints during that event. Monday, April 7th, as we've already said ad nauseum, is town meeting here in the auditorium at 7 p.m. Monday, April 21st, spring vacation begins for the students and staff. Saturday, April 26th, is the annual town elections for Abington at the Beaverbrook Elementary School, which is going to take me into the last part of the meeting. So while she will be at the April 7th meeting before the town meeting, tonight's Danielle's Grafton's last meeting in front of a regular meeting as member of the Abington School Committee. I just have a couple things. So Danielle, thank you. 6 years ago you joined in 2019, and if anybody knows, it's obviously you never knew what you were going to be going into and what would be happening. So thank you for all of your support for me personally in the last 6 years. Well, everybody's been there. You've been there the longest, and I needed it during some of those times, so I appreciate it. And then even after all that, you decided to run again in 2022. So thank you. I'm going to pass it to Dr. Michelle before it reaches you to say anything you'd like.
6 years as a valued member of, don't get me like going too, as a valued member of the school committee. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, expertise, and ideas to push all of us always to think more deeply and differently. Always to strive for a better, stronger, and more rigorous learning environment for our students. Thank you to you and to your family for sharing you with us, and best of luck, and don't be a stranger.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Whatever you want.
I didn't plan on saying much, and I'm not good at winging it, and I changed my mind on saying something because I know I would go home and regret it if I didn't say something to convey how much this experience has meant to me. So it will be brief. I'm going to read from the paper because I'm sweating and my palms are sweating and I'm crying. So it has been an absolute honor and privilege to serve our schools and community for the past 6 years. Being here with these outstanding humans at this table in this room has felt like being at home with family doing very important work for our most important people, our kids. I am so proud of our town and its schools, and I hope that all the stakeholders, administrators, educators, parents, our students, and the community at large feel that I have served them and you all well. Every good thing must come to an end, and this has been a great thing. So I close the school committee chapter of my life tonight with so much gratitude and love for all of you. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I was asked, am I looking forward to not having to come to meetings and have it be chaotic? And the answer is no, I'm not looking forward to it. It's time for me to pass the torch to somebody else, but I have enjoyed every second of being here with all of you. I bleed education, and it has been an amazing experience. It's been a great ride, and it's time for it to end, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. So normally, I would let you give the motion, the next thing, but since we don't have that motion here, you're going to go first when we get to it, okay?
Okay.
So by roll call vote, in accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purpose of conducting strategy session for negotiations with the Abington Education Association Units A and B and non-union personnel, since as declared by the chair to hold this discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee and not to return to regular session. I should have said we're going to go into executive session before I said all of that, but I got distracted. So by roll call vote, Danielle.
Yes. I was ready to make a motion. Sorry. Yes.
Melanie?
Sorry.
Heidi?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you in April.